So talking about the certificate of cloud security knowledge and its fourth version. So Jana, is there anything that, or David for that matter, that you want to specifically know about the change between version
Pete,
3 and version 4?
is the exam still the same for version 4?
No, there is a different exam, and I think they have updated quite a significant number of questions. And it does reflect, as far as we can see, it does reflect the new body of knowledge. So, okay, that's your first question. Is the exam different? Yes, it is, and I'll explain a bit more about it in detail.
No, not a
Jana, any
specific one.
specific question that you have
I
right now?
also have the impression that a lot of things changed, and well, of course, I don't know if there are any deadlines until which time you're allowed to do version 3, so that would be important, maybe.
Right,
And apart from that, just
right.
changes in general.
Okay, great. Right. Okay. Well, that's a good start. So, and I think I'll answer most of your questions to some extent. And other than that, I have some time left at the end. Now, I've given this as part of a webinar already, but that was for people who didn't know me too well. So, I'm going to click through the basics of my introduction here. I think you will be bored if I read that out. At the same as well, that why CCSK now that objective has not changed because CCSK is still the body of knowledge that aims to facilitate the common understanding and not so much tell you about how to actually do cloud security. Although in version 4 it has gotten a little bit more, let's say, prescriptive in terms of it would be very good if you would do stuff like this, or not doing stuff like this would be very stupid. Just things like that. The CSA, I can skip that as well. You know, if you're in the recording, then you might pause it and have a look at it. So what about the CCSK content? Now, especially the version 4 content has had a bit of a change. It has now 14 domains plus 2, and I'll explain that in a second. And it still is a mix of governance and technical and operational stuff, where the exam still has questions for all of those domains. The new thing is that obviously the CSA guidance document has been updated to version 4, and that is the most significant change as far as I'm concerned. The ENISA document is still officially part of the body of knowledge, and it has not changed in 7 years, which is really interesting. I think it is still a relevant document. It has been, let's say, of course, you can see that it ages a bit, but it ages like a good wine, not so much like spoiled fresh meat.
No, no.
You have a question, Jana? Okay, and so if maybe you want to mute yourself until you have a question. The new thing here is that the cloud controls metrics is now officially part of the body of knowledge of CCSK. Now that actually is a little harsh. It's not as big as you think it is. Actually, I think in like a 10-minute or 20-minute study of that document will give you enough insight into how to answer the questions. So roughly speaking, the content has been updated, expanded a bit, but not drastically so. Now the guidance itself has changed fairly significantly. We'll get to that. First, the overall perspective of these domains. Now, if you're familiar with the CCSK version 3, then you'll see that some of the domains actually have not changed very much. And a couple of them have been changed in names significantly. And some of them look the same, but they are different, really different. So let's focus on some of that in more detail. The major changes between version 3 and version 4. So as an overall perspective, this is the first major update since the CCSK version 3 was released in 2011. As a matter of fact, I think I did the version 2 exam myself to begin with, but I was quickly superseded by version 3. Overall, version 4, the guidance version 4 is much more modern. It really has changed its attitude between version 3, which was like, okay, this is cloud and this is why it's scary, to Well, this is the way cloud looks like these days, and this is how you can securely use it for new stuff. And a lot of practical experience in cloud implementation has actually been distilled into that new version. A couple of examples of topics that were completely non-existent in 2011 and the guide and definitely in the guidance, like software-defined networking, cloud access security brokers, containers, serverless, the EU GDPR, and that's all in the new version 4 guidance, and thus also in CCSK version 4. It also talks about cloud with a much more real-world perspective. We had these definitions 9 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, for example, on hybrid cloud, and those definitions have assumed a different meaning. Let's put it mildly. And in particular, a notion like hybrid cloud now has an interpretation which is completely opposite from what it was 8 years ago, or what it officially was. And that is now acknowledged in the version 4 guidance. Also, there's talk about more cloud native architectures. Again, like 7 years ago, it was like this is cloud and this is data centers as we know them, and we don't really see how that matches, or we can only think of cloud usage as a way to transpose our current applications and architectures into the cloud. However, what we see is that cloud has enabled new ways of developing and organizing and structuring and even architecting our applications and the way applications are being deployed. Resilience engineering and DevOps are two new concepts in that. And there are other application areas of cloud that we, let's say, well, they did exist. Well, the notions like Internet of Things, big data, and mobile, they did exist, obviously, 7 years ago. But cloud computing has given them a tremendous boost and a complete turnaround, really. And this is massive. This is really a big change. If you look at how these three topics are now playing out as a result of cloud, they have hugely taken off. It is immense. And for example, no, well, actually, it takes too much time to dive into that. But just looking at Amazon, Amazon has specific portfolios of services for each of these three application areas. Not one service, but multiple services, making it really easy for companies to deploy applications in these three spaces. Okay, so let's dive into some of the domains. Now, data security and information was kind of split over a couple of domains. It still is, in a way, but it has been restructured. So domain 5, information governance, actually I'm so much into v4 now that I kind of ripped away the version 3 overview of domains from my desk. So, but domain 5 now focuses mostly on, let's say, information governance, and in particular on the data lifecycle. That hasn't changed much in terms of sheer content, so to say. Matter of fact, let me pull up a set of notes that was given to me by one of my fellow trainers on the change depth, so to say, of each of these domains. Hold on, I should have taken that. So that's domain 5. There's not much change. There's a couple of things that have moved out of domain 5. Domain 11 has changed a bit more. So what's going on there is that all the operational stuff has moved into there. So encryption, CASB, and overall cleanup of that domain. So, and a little bit more up to date, like bring your own key stuff. So that is not drastically changed, but it's cleaner now. Now in domain 3, we're taking it from more or less from the beginning to the end. Domain 3, legal stuff, has been updated significantly. A lot of old stuff has been thrown out. It has lots of information on regional examples. Version 2 didn't even acknowledge that there was such a thing as an international regulation. It was completely US-centric. Version 3 had a little bit on that, and now version 4 really discusses the global perspective, including GDPR. And yep, that is much more, let's say, global in nature now. So again, a better domain. Now moving along to the next domain, domain 6. Now here's been some reshuffling, because domain 6 used to be portability and interoperability, and that has been reshuffled a bit. I think most of it has actually changed, so some of the concepts not, but yeah, kind of. So management plane security is a topic which was not part of v4. And business continuity, which was, but it was really old-fashioned. And right now, business continuity is like the link to portability and interoperability to some extent, right? There's discussion on, software-defined infrastructure, yeah, a couple of things, and some old standards that are thrown out. It's much more modern, definitely. And it talks about it from the perspective of resilience engineering, more or less, or chaos engineering, rather than how do I save my aging data center. So much for domain 6. Now domain 7 is completely new, in a way. So completely new about infrastructure security, but some old stuff has been recycled into this. So it used to be like data center security. Now a lot of the data center stuff that was really old-fashioned has been thrown out from domain 7. And the disaster recovery stuff has been moved to domain 6. But there's a couple of things that are basically gone away. Workload security, immutable workloads, software-defined networking, software-defined perimeter, much more up to date in a way. Domain 7. Domain 8 is now virtualization in containers. I think it was primarily virtualization, and now a bit of stuff has been added to it. More cleaner virtual firewalls, containers, serverless computing, some stuff like that. And again, old stuff that is irrelevant or less relevant for cloud thrown out, updated stuff around, let's say, the layers above the core basic infrastructure. So virtualization, containers, and all that stuff. This is like, what is your new execution environment, your execution deployment unit? Okay, that's domain 8. Now, domain 11, which used to be also data security and encryption. I think we've already covered this to some extent. It used to be just encryption and key management, and now it's a little bit wider. But it is just a bit of an expansion on what we had already. So this is like I already discussed 11 in a way. Now domain 10 and 12 were fairly significantly rewritten. 10 not so much as 12. So application security, some old stuff has been thrown out. The stuff that wasn't very specific to cloud. Some of the identity management stuff was moved to the domain 12, and in that sense it has changed. It was definitely restructured. And here's where DevOps and DevSecOps have been introduced in domain 10, which is something that was completely not in the version 3 guidance, and it is truly relevant. Now, again, the coverage is not too deep, unfortunately. I mean, there's only so much that you can put into that, into a document like this. Domain 12, identity and access management. It was hard to read. It was a very abstract one. It is now much, let's say, significantly more easy to read. And some old standards have been thrown out, and standards that were evolving have had their treatment evolved. So changed fairly significantly. Then domain 13, which used to be, I even forgot about that, man. like it was more another, I think, more virtualization stuff. That has been integrated, and now domain 14, which was security as a service, has been rebranded, renamed into domain 13. The domain 13, the security as a service domain right now is, let's see, I think it has a lot more examples, because the original domain 14 on security as a service was really, really abstract. Was really hard to find examples of that. That has been changed by giving it a lot more examples. And then I think finally domain 14 is now a new domain. This covers the new stuff: big data, IoT, mobile devices, serverless. I think this DevOps is also part of the new stuff, but that has been included in domain 10 application security. So these are the major, let's say, changes and reshuffling of the various domains. It has all now been written by one editor rather than a couple. So in terms of style, it's a little bit more. It is significantly more coherent. So, any questions on this domain reshuffling stuff? Happy with this?
Oh, good.
All good. Great.
Yep.
What about you, Jana?
Sounds good and sounds more coherent.
Very distant. But sounds all good. Otherwise, you'll just have to type in the chat box. Okay. Couple of questions that everybody asks all the time about validity and things that have changed. Some things have changed. So first of all, what has not changed is that certificates are valid forever, but they do come with a version number. So if you look up somebody's CCSK certificate, which you can now do online, if you have the number, you'll see the specific version there. Now, I personally would consider somebody who would have a lower version number actually to be better, because they were there earlier. But of course, your mileage may vary. Now, suppose you have version 3. There are a couple of things you can do, and I'll return to this point in a little later. But this is from the perspective of the official frequently asked questions. Now, if you have passed the exam, you can try to do an upgrade to version 4. And if you got your token after December 1, 2016, which I'm not sure, David, you have. I think yours was earlier.
I do have the token.
Was that again?
Yes, I did.
But you passed the exam. Okay. Yeah, but if you pass the exam, then you will need to apply for a upgrade attempt token. And I think you did the course. When was that? Let me check. I think you did the course on, when was that? In March 2016. So that is a while back, which means that unfortunately for you, that upgrade attempt is not free. I'm not sure you should be doing the upgrade exam,
Yeah,
but that's my personal opinion.
Free attempt, because I did have a check and.
Well, you have a token, but you did the exam with the token, right? Well, we'll see. But yes. You told me you passed the exam, right? Okay, then the token is gone.
But I still have a free attempt as well.
If one free, well, you get, if you pass the first attempt, then you don't get the second attempt. Okay. Anyway, we can discuss this once you decide if you want to do version 4. I don't think you should be doing that, but that's a different story. The next question that always pops up is there some kind of bridge course or upgrade course from version 3 to version 4? The official answer is no. And the reason for that is that they say 85% of the material is new. Well, I don't fully agree with that. It is true that 85% of the text is actually new, but that does not imply that it's all new content. 85% is rewritten. No, I don't think so. I think 30–40% is really new stuff. And then there's some stuff that got kicked out, and then the rest, most of it was rewritten. And maybe a quarter of the text hasn't changed. Now, suppose you want to upgrade yourself to version 4. You might qualify to join me in the next CCSK 4 online course if you have been a member or a participant in one of my courses. And since you show up on my alumni calls, I will offer you that for free. The next one actually is starts on March 12th, the online. Then suppose you did not do the exam yet. What should you do? Well, if you have a version 2 or version 3 token, officially you can instead take the version 4 exam, if you so wish. Of course, you have to study for that. Now, officially you can still take the V3 exam until November 31st, which is like end of this year, more or less. So this really applies to you, Jana, I think. However, what you could be doing is, well, there's actually two things that you can do. You could say, well, I'll take the V3 exam, right? And if you didn't get the token very long ago, and which I think is your case as well, Diana, then if you pass, you might still get a free shot at the version 4 exam, if you wish. Of course, it depends a little on how far you are with your study, I suppose, and I'll get back to that in a second. And contrary to history, version 4 tokens are valid for 2 years only. So your V3 token, Diana, should be valid forever, but don't hold your breath for that. Now the exam is still the same, time to open book in your own time, 2 tries, 60 questions, 90 minutes, etc., etc. Multiple choice questions, typically something between, a lot of them are 5 answers, so rather than the 4 that most people have, and a couple of them are just 2 or 3, I believe. The certification does not expire, there's no maintenance, that has not changed one bit. Now let's dive deeper into the question, should you be doing version 3 or version 4? If you are currently, doing a version 4 class, which I don't think holds for any of you at this moment, but forget about, if you've started studying version 4, forget about version 3. That's basically my suggestion. There is, from the perspective of understanding cloud security, version 4 is a lot better. And I don't think that the exam, that it's worth the trouble to do the exam 3. Now, if you only want to have up-to-date cloud security knowledge, forget about version 3, read version 4. Again, the guidance is a lot more up-to-date. Whether or not you want to take an exam is a different story, by the way. Now, suppose you took a version 3 class, which means that you invested a lot of time in version 3, so this is Jana's case, and you want to do the exam really quickly, then do it really quickly. And then you might consider reading version 4 to get up to date. However, you could consider, if you haven't progressed too much, so this is another answer. If you haven't, if you go like it was a long time ago, I took the class, I forgot most of it, yeah, maybe I should be doing something else instead. Then it might make sense to consider moving to V4. Now, if your exam, no, that's about the retake exam. I think you still have to the end of the year to use that CCSK token. And if it's really very long ago, yeah, then talk to me and we'll see what we can do about it. Anyway, if you've been a recent student of mine and you think you want to move to version 4, then you might consider trying to persuade me to let you in on the version 4 class. If it's been very recent, then I'll let you in for free. If it's been a long time, make me an offer for what you would want to pay for it. Any reasonable offers are accepted or acceptable. So suppose you took a CCSP class. Now this doesn't, well, this happens. And then you should probably read version 3, because CCSP, uh, version 3 will actually explain a couple of things that are on the CCSP exam. Of course, you may not may not go amiss by reading version 4 because it's much more up-to-date cloud knowledge. You do have to understand that the CCSP body of knowledge is not the same as the CCSK version 4 body of knowledge. You have to be aware of that. No big deal beyond that. And then finally, as I said, yeah, I should have rearranged this. If you took the class long ago, no, consider signing up for the refresh course. Okay, I guess we're kind of closing to the end of the presentation. Here are some links that you might want to check out. Let's see. Can I do this in the chat box? There are two things. So the Cloud Security Alliance has as a frequently asked questions list themselves that you can use. Let me check just for the recording to do this. One link. Put it in the chat box for those of you who want to do that. And then the other one is, I think, even more interesting. Suppose you want to test your CCSK version 4 knowledge. I have produced a bunch of questions, basically one for each domain. Oh, hold on, this is the wrong one. This was the internal link. When you want, and this will actually bring you to that quiz. So I've produced a question for each of the domains of the CCSK version 4 guidance. And that's a multiple choice thing. You have to sign up with your name, and use the name that I know you by, so you won't get on an additional mailing list for that. The answers that we get so far, the response I get so far, is that it's not very trivial. I mean, it's not. You can give it a go, and you'll see there's some tricky questions in there. At the same time, it is all exactly according to the version 4 guidance, and I had some good response on it so far already. So if you're interested in trying to figure out what version 4 is, that quiz definitely is something that I would recommend. And a lot of people have taken it already, and definitely feel free to promote that quiz to your friends and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on there. Why don't you give it a shot? And it might be interesting for you. Okay. Let's see, what else is there that I would want to add to this. I guess it kind of covers the topics that I wanted to cover. The rest is about I have some more slides on learning options, but you already are familiar with that. And it's still your chance to be part of the early adopters. So any questions beyond the ones that I've already answered? David, have your questions been answered? Okay, great. What about you, Jana? Still muted. You can just type. It's also okay. Okay, so Jana, let me know in case you want to make up your mind and then we start all over again on that study and move to version 4. And I'll just let you in on the next course. And you can probably do the version 4 exam after that. And again, we'll do the study. I'll hope to be able to, yeah. Oh, one more thing that I have for the both of you. Yeah, and if it's been a while that you listened to all those recordings, of course, yeah, I'm still working on updating my own material, but the official material is a lot better now. And whatever I had in my own material is still very valid. So not too bad. Anyway, just keep me posted on that. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, one more thing is that I actually have a Slack channel dedicated to CCSK study and its application, in fact. And I'm going to invite all former students of mine, and this is going to be, actually it already is, a bit of a exam preparation support site, if you wish. And any of you have been using Slack? Are you using it on a regular basis, or just every now and then? Now and then. Okay. Well, Slack is like a closed chat community, and it's fairly intuitive. I like it. We're just trying to put in some, let's say, community there. So a lot of people who have been to my training put in their questions and look up questions, and hopefully they will also answer each other in a bit more detail. We had some nice questions already. Let me, you know what? I'll just send you an invite link straight away. Invite people. Link to share. Expires in 1 day. Just for the fun of it. Copy. So this link you would have to click today or tomorrow, and then you'll in on that Slack channel. It is it's evolving. If you have any ideas on how to improve that, you're welcome. And by all means, feel very free to put in your your daily questions almost. Like, what do you think about Microsoft's claim that blah 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 yakety yak? If you're working on a project like that.